The lights inside the large theater were low and gentle, like the soft glow of a late afternoon sun slipping behind old buildings. The audience sat quietly, their voices fading into a respectful hush. This was the kind of silence that carried expectation, not tension. It was the calm before a story began. On the wide stage, the familiar logo of America's Got Talent shone faintly on the floor, reflecting years of dreams, nerves, and unforgettable moments. Tonight felt different, though no one could fully explain why. Backstage, an elderly man sat alone on a simple wooden chair. His hands rested on his knees, thin but steady. His white hair was neatly combed back, and his face carried deep lines shaped by time, joy, sorrow, and memory. He was 87 years old, and his name was Elvis Presley. The name alone carried weight, history, and echoes of a past era that many in the audience only knew through old records and black and white videos. Elvis took a slow breath. He had learned long ago that breathing slowly helped calm the heart. He could hear the distant murmur of the crowd, the shuffle of feet, the quiet instructions from stagehands. All of it blended into a low background hum. It reminded him of being young, standing backstage at small halls, waiting for a chance to sing. Back then, he was full of fire and hunger. Now, he was full of reflection. A young production assistant approached him with a gentle smile. "Mr. Presley, we're ready for you in a moment." Elvis nodded. "Thank you," he said softly. His voice was low, warm, and slightly rough, like an old radio that still worked perfectly if you listened closely. As the assistant walked away, Elvis closed his eyes. Memories came easily these days. He thought about his childhood in a small house, about singing gospel songs with his mother, about the first time he realized music could touch people in a way words alone could not. He thought about the rise, the fame, the noise, and the long years that followed when the world slowly moved on. He did not feel bitterness. Only a quiet understanding that time changes everyone. Out in the theater, the judges were settling into their seats. Simon Cowell leaned back slightly, scanning the stage with his usual sharp gaze. Heidi Klum smiled and adjusted her posture, ready for whatever surprise might come next. Howie Mandel tapped his fingers lightly on the table, while Sofia Vergara chatted softly, her laughter fading as the room grew quiet again. The host stepped onto the stage and spoke into the microphone, introducing the next act. When he said the name, Elvis Presley, there was a ripple of reaction across the audience. Some people gasped, others whispered, a few laughed softly, thinking it was a joke or a tribute act. Cameras caught raised eyebrows and curious smiles. Then Elvis walked onto the stage. He moved slowly but with purpose. Each step was careful, respectful of his age, yet steady. The spotlight followed him, wrapping him in warm light. He wore a simple dark suit, clean and modest, with no flashy details. The applause began uncertainly, then grew louder as people recognized the sincerity in his presence. Elvis reached the center of the stage and stood still. He looked out at the audience. Thousands of faces stared back at him, young and old, all waiting. He gave a small nod, not dramatic, just polite. The applause faded into silence once more. Simon leaned forward. "Hello," he said. "What's your name?" "Elvis Presley," Elvis replied. There was a pause. Simon blinked. "As in, Elvis Presley?" Elvis smiled gently. "Yes, sir, that's me." The audience reacted again, this time with laughter mixed with disbelief. Heidi covered her mouth, eyes wide. Howie shook his head slowly, smiling in confusion. Sophia leaned forward, clearly intrigued. Simon raised an eyebrow. "And how old are you, Elvis?" "I'm 87, Elvis said. The room seemed to breathe in together. 87. The number hung in the air. "And why did you decide to come on America's Got Talent now?" Simon asked. Elvis thought for a moment. He did not rush his answer. "Because I still have a song inside me," he said. "And I believe songs are meant to be shared, no matter how much time has passed." There was no sadness in his voice. Just calm honesty. Simon nodded slowly. "All right, whenever you're ready." Elvis turned toward the band. The musicians were quiet, watching him closely. He gave a small signal. The first notes of an old-school ballad drifted into the air. The music was slow, simple, and gentle, built around a soft piano and a warm guitar. Elvis closed his eyes as he began to sing. His voice was not loud. It did not need to be. It was deep, rich, and full of texture, like worn leather or aged wood. Every word was clear. Every note carried history. It was the kind of voice that told stories without trying. The song spoke of love lost and remembered, of long roads and quiet nights, of promises made under open skies. Elvis sang as if he was speaking directly to each person in the room. His phrasing was unhurried, allowing space between lines, letting the silence work alongside the sound. The audience grew still. No one shifted in their seat. No one whispered. Some people leaned forward without realizing it. Others felt a tightness in their chest they could not explain. On the judges' table, reactions changed slowly. Simon's sharp expression softened. He stopped analyzing and simply listened. Heidi's eyes filled with tears, her hand resting over her heart. Howie sat completely still, his usual jokes forgotten. Sophia's smile faded into something deeper, more emotional. Elvis opened his eyes halfway through the song and looked out again. He saw young couples holding hands, older couples sitting shoulder to shoulder, individuals wiping their eyes quietly. He did not sing for applause. He sang to connect. As the song continued, memories returned to him. He remembered singing in small rooms, singing for his mother, singing for people who believed in him before the world knew his name. He remembered mistakes, regrets, and moments of deep loneliness. All of it flowed into his voice, not as pain, but as understanding. The gentle twist came near the end of the song. The lyrics shifted from loss to acceptance, from longing to peace. Elvis's voice softened even more. It felt like a farewell, but also like gratitude. He was not saying goodbye to life. He was saying thank you. The final note hung in the air, trembling slightly, then faded. For a long moment, there was complete silence. No applause, no cheers, just quiet. Then someone in the audience stood up. Then another, and another. Soon, the entire theater rose to its feet. The applause came slowly at first, then grew into a powerful wave. It was not wild or chaotic. It was deep and respectful, like a standing ovation given at the end of a meaningful play. Elvis stood still, his head slightly bowed. He did not raise his arms or smile widely. He simply placed a hand over his heart. The judges stood as well. Simon clapped slowly, his expression serious and moved. Heidi wiped her tears openly. Howie nodded to himself, clearly affected. Sophia applauded with both hands, her eyes shining. When the applause finally settled, Simon spoke. His voice was quieter than usual. "Elvis," he said, "that was extraordinary." Elvis nodded gently. "I've been doing this a long time," Simon continued. "And I can honestly say, that was one of the most sincere performances I've ever seen. You didn't try to impress us. You invited us into your life." Elvis listened, his posture relaxed. Heidi spoke next. "Your voice carries so much emotion," she said. "It felt like you were singing memories." "It was beautiful," Howie added. "I came in curious. I'm leaving changed. That's rare." Sophia smiled warmly. "You reminded us why music matters," she said. Elvis took a breath. "Thank you," he replied. "That means more than you know." Simon exchanged a glance with the other judges. Then he reached forward. "I think this moment deserves something special," Simon said. The audience held its breath again. Simon pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti burst from above, raining down slowly like soft sunlight. Gasps and cheers filled the room, but Elvis remained still, looking up as the golden pieces drifted around him. Some landed on his shoulders, some at his feet. He reached out and caught one, holding it between his fingers as if it were fragile. Tears welled in his eyes, but he did not cry openly. He smiled, small and full. As the noise faded, Elvis looked out at the crowd one last time. He felt complete, not because of the buzzer or the applause, but because he had shared his song. Backstage later, Elvis sat again on a simple chair. The noise of the show felt distant now. A producer offered him water. He accepted it with a nod. He thought about how strange life was. How it could circle back in ways you never expect. He did not know how much time he had left, but he knew this moment would stay with him. Out in the world, people would talk about the performance. They would share clips, write comments, argue about whether it was real or symbolic. But for Elvis, it was simple. He had sung, and people had listened. As the night moved on and the theater slowly emptied, the stage lights dimmed again. The golden confetti was swept away. But something remained in the air, something quiet and lasting. A reminder that even at 87, even after a lifetime, a soulful song could still stop time, even if only for a few minutes.